Now here's your host, Jason Voorhees and Aaron Savage.
Oh, yeah!
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Sports and Metal Podcast. We are your hosts, as always. This is Aaron Savage. With me, as always, my partner in crime, Mr. Jason Voorhees. And before we get started, I just want to give a shout-out to our number one sponsor, La Terrain Watches. Make sure you go to their website, www.laterrain.com. That's www.la-touraine.com. Use our promo code SNM. That's the letters SNM as in sports and metal. You're going to save 10% off your purchase, and you want to check out these beautiful handcrafted watches at laterrain.com. That being said, welcome to the show, Jay, and I'm super pumped to be here. I know we've got a lot to talk about, brother. How are you?
I'm excited, man. I live for these moments.
Yeah, I know you got your Phillies shirt on, and why don't we jump off? I mean, listen, I'm a Mets fan. You're a Phillies fan. Both of our teams are hot. You know, we're getting into mid-August now, and it's an exciting time of year for a baseball fan, sports fan. Pennant races are heating up. Dude, I'm super pumped as a Mets fan. The Mets seem like a runaway train right now. But that gets me to my point. I don't remember a season where I've seen this many teams that are playing as well as they are all at once. And like I say, the Mets are a runaway train, but the Dodgers are even more of a runaway train. I've never, you know, I remember, I think it was 93, the great Dodgers-Giants division race in the NL West. They both won 100 games. It came down to the last day of the season. I remember Mike Piazza hit a home run or maybe two in that game to knock San Francisco, and that was pre-wild card. So the Giants missed the playoffs that year with 100 wins. And as a Mets fan, I know what that's like. You know, from 84 to 1990, the Mets had the best record in baseball and only made the playoffs twice in 86 and 88 because back then you had to win the division. So, I mean, there's a few examples, but I don't remember ever having a season like this, and especially with the added excitement of all these wild cards where teams could get into the playoffs and anything's possible. I mean, like I said, you have the Mets and Dodgers runaway trains. The Yankees were a runaway train. Now they're starting to fall back to the pack, but they're probably going to get hot again. And here come your Phillies, dude. They're still 10 games back, but what are they won, like 15 out of 17? Something like the same as the Mets. The Mets have won like 15 out of 17. Phillies are right there. I don't remember seeing a season like this. The Braves just had a 14-game winning streak. They've fallen back to the pack a bit. Now the Phillies have a chance of passing them. Dude, how exciting is it?
I mean, all I could say is I remembered only just June 1st, and how down in the dumps I was about the Phillies. I mean, the Mets have been, as you said, a runaway train, pretty much leading the division wire to wire so far. But the Phillies were pretty much left for dead under Girardi. And since they made that manager change, like, it's easy to say that, you know, doing so kind of lit a spark, but they're 40-19 since Girardi's been let go. Actually, 40-20 after that they lost.
Yep, they lost.
They've won 12 of their last 14 games. I believe they've won 15 of their last 17. It's crazy to me, like, that the Phillies are actually even in the conversation of making the playoffs now after the way they started. Like, that to me in itself is like ridiculously sick, because I was the guy saying, oh my God, here we go. Aaron's going to get his wish. Mets are going to be good and they're in the playoffs, and my team's going to freaking shit the bed. And here we are. I mean, listen, yes, I get, and I think that you could speak to the fact that I've been very positive about the Mets. Like, I know I'm a Phillies fan, but I haven't been homerish as far as my takes as far as the Mets.
Oh, I don't know about that. We'll get to that.
So, listen,
we'll wait to the next segment.
I've been saying all year that the Mets, to me, right now, look like a team of destiny. They look like a team.
Well, there's a few, and I mean, that's kind of my point. I mean, as much as the Mets do, you still have these Dodgers, they're like freaking insane, you know? And, dude, I forgot to mention Houston. The Astros, when have you remembered a season where you could have the Mets, Dodgers, Astros, Yankees all win well over 100 games, like maybe 110 games these teams are on a pace for? That's crazy, dude. And then the fact that Phillies are even able to say that they're in the race after the start they had with the amount of teams that have gone on runs, including the Atlanta Braves that I just mentioned had won 14 in a row at one point to get themselves back into the mix. The Phillies are playing, neck and neck with these teams that are on pace for 100, 110 wins, albeit they didn't get off to that hot start, so they're 10 games behind the Mets. But the way they're playing, I mean, they're playing like a runaway train right now. It's going to be a fun series this weekend, this Mets-Phillies series. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I think we're looking forward to it. I don't know about somebody else, but we'll get into that. Sure.
Oh, wait, you mean this guy?
Yeah.
Keith Hernandez? You segued into it perfectly right there, Jay. I had to.
That's okay.
That was a perfect segue. So, dude, I'm pumped for this Mets-Phillies series. I know you're pumped for this Mets-Phillies series. But unless you've been under a rock, you know that Keith Hernandez, Met legend, greatest defensive first baseman of all time, and beloved Mets broadcaster, is not looking forward to this Mets-Phillies series. The other night on the broadcast, I guess it came out that Keith wouldn't be doing the series, and I guess Gary asked him about it. And Keith said during the broadcast, and I quote, "I've expressed to the front office, not the Mets front office, our front office at SNY, the Mets television station, that I hate doing Philly games. So I guess they gave me the series off. They're hot right now. I would like to see them. But as far as fundamentally and defensively, the Phillies have always been just not up to it." Hernandez added that he'll watch on TV. Dude, you just got done telling me you haven't had many homerish takes, but your Facebook post this week tells me otherwise.
All right, that's different though. This guy came out and clowned the Phillies, so of course I'm going to have a take like that. He pissed me off. And, obviously, yeah, you could say it's homerish, but if one of the Phillies broadcasters came out and trash talked the Mets, I'm sure you would have plenty to say as well. So, yes, I did.
Wait. But I want to see if I could pull up your Facebook post here. Give me a minute, because you were a little more hardcore on it.
That's okay.
Give me a second. Let me see if I could pull this up. I got to see if I could find it now, because you're pretty active on there. It might be buried. Oh, here we go.
Front page.
This is Jason Voorhees on Facebook. Keith Hernandez running his mouth on the Mets broadcast about how bad the Phillies are defensively is almost as dumb as me saying the sky is red. We got Adam Cease commenting, Hernandez is a douchebag. Maybe have a clue about what the truth is before making such an ignorant claim. The Phillies are, in fact, second in the league for fewest errors in MLB. Yes, the Phillies may not be the poster child or the gold standard of defense, but let's not act like the Mets haven't been choke artists and a joke for most of the past decade. Wow, those are some fighting words right there, Jay.
I mean, it's not wrong what I said.
Well, I'm going to disagree. I did come in on here, but I'll bring the audience into it now. Dude, first of all, if anybody knows Keith Hernandez, you know that he's a quirky guy. He's never really bashing anybody. He's just like telling it like it is from the way he sees it. And he could be talking about the Mets just as much as he could have said that about the Phillies or the Cardinals for that, or the Dodgers or whoever it may be at that moment. Keith Hernandez is a quirky guy that's never been afraid to say what's on his mind. And in defense of Keith, dude, he is the greatest defensive first baseman of all time. Few would argue that. And if you listen to Mets games, he is like a really old school guy, and he rides the Mets just as much if he feels like they're doing things that he doesn't like. I brought up an example on the Facebook post when I commented to you. He was riding Jeff McNeil last year when he was talking about how McNeil had gotten away from his contact approach going the other way. He was uppercutting. All day you hear Keith complaining about launch angle and this and all this modern baseball. I mean, when Pete Alonso is not a great defensive first baseman, but Hernandez would point those things out. And then last year when he had improved greatly, he pointed that out. But Keith is always one to call it like it is. So the truth be told, Jay, the Phillies have been kind of a station-to-station, Paul Bunyan-esque team, statuesque in the field. I mean, dude, it's not like Kyle Schwarber's going to win a Gold Glove anytime soon. It's not like he's going to run down many fly balls in the gap. So come on. I mean, and your guys are playing, and don't get me wrong, I love going to a game in Philly. I like seeing the Mets-Phillies games more in Philly than New York, A, because it's easier for me to get to, and B, as awesome as Citi Field is, something about Citizens Bank Park, it's just a little more cozy. No matter where you are, you have a great view of the field. Not that Citi Field doesn't, but I think Citizens Bank Park edges it a little bit as far as field views. And I like how you can walk around and there's views of the field, 360 around. You could stand and have a beer, when they sell out and they sell the $10 standing room only tickets. At least they used to. Well, in other words, I have nothing to bash about Citizens Bank Park, but the reality is it is a bandbox. It is a bandbox. So the brand of baseball that you typically see in Philadelphia is typically going to be the brand of baseball that Keith Hernandez doesn't typically like. Keith Hernandez is a guy that appreciates hit and runs. He wasn't a power hitter himself. He was more of like a contact hitter, hits 300, 10, 15 home runs, Gold Glove defense. He was on Cardinals teams that were known for their speed. He's an old school guy. A guy like him doesn't want to go to Philly and watch 10-9 slugfests, which you both know. We both know that the Mets and Phillies have had plenty of those in Citizens Bank Ballpark. Most of the Mets lineup hits great in Philly. They love going there. And probably because Citi Field's such a hard park to hit in, it's almost like you go to Citizens Bank Park. It's like, wow. It's like, I'm sure if you play there every day and it's your home park, it's not the same feeling. But when you're coming from a park like Citi Field that's so difficult to hit in, I think you do get like some kind of a rush when you go to Citizens Bank Park and those fences are just so inviting where you can hit a ball out of the ballpark. Same as the new Yankee Stadium. But where was Keith bashing the Phillies, Jay? He was just telling it like it is. The Phillies do have a power hitting team, strikes out a ton. The games are 4 hours long. They play in a bandbox. It's typically high scoring games. What did he say is so terrible? Now, you also brought up the Phillies have like the second least errors in baseball. Again, I'm not arguing. The Phillies have played a lot better. We just talked about it. But, dude, you are a baseball fan. First of all, I should back up a minute. Keith Hernandez is the type of guy that you typically love and appreciate, an old school guy that calls out modern baseball, calls out OPS, calls out launch angle, calls out 4-hour games. I don't know why you're bagging on this guy, but the bottom line is, what did he say wrong? And I go back to the errors. You talked about least errors. That usually means least range. Guys that make less errors, and that's not like every time, but it typically correlates to getting to less balls. Guys that are great defensive players, in many cases, make more errors because they have a bigger range. They can get to a lot more balls. So they're making more extravagant attempts to make plays, and sometimes they don't make them. The ball hits the glove. That's an error. Whereas guys like Kyle Schwarber that are kind of slow, a lot of balls just kind of fall in front of them for hits. So saying you're second least errors doesn't say much to me, Jay.
Okay, so another category, Fangraphs, has the Phillies as the 6th worst defensive team in baseball.
Okay.
That's not rated by errors. That's a graph.
Yeah, I know all the analytical stuff.
Okay,
yeah.
Well, the Mets are 23rd. So the Mets aren't much better. So the funny thing that I see is that, okay, that's fine if you're going to come out and bash the Phillies for their defense. The Mets haven't been great defensively either.
Wait, read that number again to me.
Fangraphs.
Mm-hmm.
It lists the Phillies as the 6th worst defensive team in baseball. The Mets are the 23rd ranked. So that makes them probably
big difference.
The 9th or 10th ranked. I mean,
wait, the way you're saying it is confusing me.
All right. The bottom line is the Phillies are. How many teams are in baseball?
30 teams, 32 teams now, right?
Okay, so the Phillies are 6th, so they are 28th. The Mets are 24th. So there's a 4-team difference.
I'm assuming you're reading the stat right, and I'm not going to argue it. Okay. I'm not looking at it.
My point I'm making is the Mets aren't that much better. It's not like the Mets are the top defensive team in baseball.
I find that interesting.
Mets haven't been. Wait, hear me out.
I'm listening.
Over the past 10 years, let's not even look at the Phillies teams of the past.
Let's not get into 10 years.
Rollins. Okay, but I'm saying over the past 10 years, the Mets have been better than the Phillies 4 times defensively. So that means 6 out of the last 10 years, the Phillies have actually ranked higher in defense than the Mets. So I get it. You're going to call the Phillies bad defensively. That's fine. But let's not act like the Mets are this great defensive team with Gold Glovers, coming off. Look, Keith Hernandez, he could back it up because, yes, he was a Gold Glover.
I'm going to say 2 things. I think we're going back to my original point. I think it's more about the brand of baseball that's played in Philly. That ballpark, sluggers, guys that are typically slow. Hear me out. And I think it also goes back to Keith is quirky. That was kind of even in my post when I responded to you. I said he was being silly.
Okay,
You guys took it so seriously. And honestly, the reaction from you and other Phillies fans, to me, it sums up why the rest of the country hates Philly fans. If you don't want to be hated, don't act like that. That was a ridiculous
if
reaction.
you don't want to
And
be
dude,
hated, don't
Tom
make
McCarthy
a dumbass
is
comment
friends with
like that.
Hernandez.
Don't make a jackass comment like that.
I don't think it was
First of all,
jackass. No. Because
okay,
here's why.
Wait, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Why wouldn't you want to watch this series coming up with Jake DeGrom pitching for only the
100%
third
agree.
time,
100% agree.
having only went 5 innings twice? Why would you not want to watch that? So to
100%
me,
agree, but I'm going to drop
quirky
a
or not,
bomb.
give it quirky or not, it's ridiculous for
But
him.
it's not because
It's
you
his
don't get it.
job. It's his job.
Yeah, but,
He gets
okay, but
paid
here's
to
what I'm
watch
going back to.
games.
I'm going to drop another bomb I hadn't gotten to.
Wait, can I ask you a question?
This is going to blow your mind, but go.
Washington Nationals are 32nd in defense. How come he's not saying it about Washington?
Because I'm going to drop a bomb right now.
Okay.
He's being silly.
I
You
know
know why he's really not going to be there?
But
Wait,
but
wait
do you
till I
not
tell you
think-
this.
Okay, do you not think this is not fodder for the locker room for the Phillies? I mean, it's bulletin
Wait,
room material.
I'm going to get to that too. But do you know why he's really not going to be there? And I think there was a lot of jest to the comment, and it kind of like went away because the Philly fans reacted the way they did. He's actually going to be in St. Louis for the 1982 St. Louis Cardinals World Series Championship reunion. Mic drop. Mic drop.
Okay.
I think he was being silly. And obviously there could be some truth to the comment because it is Philly bandbox, power hitters, slow guys. But you think he was just kind of being silly, making a joke about it. And you guys don't watch Keith on a daily basis to get his joke, the way he talks, being silly. And I'm going to tell you this right now. You just said about the Phillies getting fodder, to want to kick the Mets' butt. The reaction of the Phillies fans, I think, gives the Mets fodder to want to kick their butts. So let's see what happens.
The Mets
You
have already
guys were the ones all fucking talk.
Okay,
Dude, think about it. Even on this show, Adam just chimed in and said Keith Hernandez is a douchebag. All I've seen is Philly fans name calling, bashing. I haven't seen any Mets fans doing it. What?
I'm actually listening to you, and you've actually made some very valid points. I'm not going to argue with it. I just think, to me, quirky or not, it's your job as a broadcaster to watch baseball teams, regardless if the team is bad defensively or bad at hitting or bad at any part of the game. And the fact of the matter is, it's somewhat revisionist history because I think what he's doing is he's banking a lot of what he's talking about on the early part of the season. This Phillies team is much different right now.
I agree.
Not only the way they're playing, they've made some defensive changes. They cut Didi Gregorius. They got rid of Odubel Herrera, who were probably two of your worst defenders. They've got Brandon Marsh, who isn't a Gold Glover yet. He hasn't won one, but he's 23, and he actually plays very good defense in center field. And they also got the guy Alonso from the Cardinals, who's he's a plus defender at short. So they've got some better guys defensively. I get that they have this, as you call him, Paul Bunyan-esque stature in the field. And I love that word, by the way. I do. I love it.
That's my
we
term.
both use it. But my point is that why wouldn't you want to watch it? To me, this is the best rivalry right now in baseball. One of them, Phillies-Mets, is becoming – the rivalry's back. I remember 2006, or I think it was 2007, when the Phillies were 7 games out with, I believe, 14 days or 17 games. Am I saying that right?
No, it was 2006. The Mets won a division. They ran away with the division. Okay, 2006 was when the Mets lost in Game 7 to the Cardinals. When after Andy Chavez made.
What was the year that we were?
You're thinking 2007, I believe it was.
Okay, 2007.
They had a 7-game play. I've talked about that on this show. I've talked about that on this show. The time I had in Citizens Bank Park as a Mets fan, how fucking awesome it was, even though the Mets lost. I've talked about that on this show. Remember I talked about after the one Mets game that they lost in Philly, and I remember Jason Worth had the game-winning hit, and Phillies fan had the sign up. It said worth every penny. After the loss, I remember I walked in to McFadden's with all my Met gear on by myself, and everybody in the bar was going, asshole, asshole. What did I do? I didn't talk shit. I didn't start fight. I took a bow, and everybody thought it was the coolest thing they'd ever seen. So the whole place bought me shots. I was so hammered. I had to stay at the Holiday Inn. I couldn't drive home.
And
that was me and you had been at that series. That was like after you had left, I think. But go on.
Well, no, and I guess that's the one reason why I'll never say that the Mets are totally going to run away with the division, because I've witnessed that. So I can't ever say that it's not possible.
Yeah, we've all witnessed it in so many ways. The Mets kind of did it to the Nationals in 2015.
Yeah,
so it can go both ways. Things happen, yeah.
That the Mets are going to win the division, but I think the Phillies definitely can jump and leapfrog the Braves. I mean, that's not even plausible at this point. Like, they've already gained a lot of ground on the Braves, and the Braves are struggling. The Braves are reeling. Back to the Keith Hernandez. I see what you're saying, that he's quirky and it was probably a joke, and you're right. Most of it's probably overreacted. I just think it's funny because now he's become, well, not like he hasn't been a villain in the past, but he's definitely a villain in Philly. Like, I don't think there's one person right now in Philly that's actually sticking up for Keith Hernandez. I mean, yeah. What's this?
So just so you guys know out here, I pulled up fan graphs, looking at advanced defensive statistics analytics here. And I will say this, the Mets are ranked 10th. Phillies are ranked 27th, Jay.
Okay, I got it.
Anyway, bottom line is I didn't think that added up because I'm going to tell you, if you've watched the Mets this year, I don't think anybody to a man is going to say they haven't been anything but stellar defensively. It's one of the reasons they've been playing so well. I saw one of your buddies on the Facebook post commented about Starling Marte, whatever his defensive replacement value was. I don't get into all that shit. But if you watch Starling Marte on a daily basis, dude, the guy's got a cannon for an arm. He gets to almost anything. I mean, you know that thing you tend to bring up on this show every week? You like to call it the eye test. If you've been watching the Mets every day, dude, the only guy who's probably regressed defensively on the Mets is Pete Alonso. But outside of that, dude, the Mets have been a tremendous defensive baseball team. And beyond that,
I wouldn't say being ranked 10th makes them tremendous.
Well, like I said, I go back to the eye test, Jay. I'm telling you, you watch the Mets on a daily basis.
And that's
fine.
You
know me. Wait, you know me. Let me finish. You know me. I'm the first one to criticize. You know me. The Mets have played tremendous defensively, and it's not even just the obvious stuff like, backhanded plays deep and short in the hole. It's short, and Lindor making a great throw. It's not just that stuff. It's even just the baseball smarts that they've shown this season. Like, in other words, throwing to the right base constantly, right? Turning double plays, knowing where guys are on the base pass, like unorthodox double plays. I saw a play with Luis Guillorme a couple weeks ago where he hesitated and he realized rather than get the force at second, he just took that quick glance and home, saw the runner move halfway down the line, gunned it home, got the out at the plate, saved the run that inning. Just the little things like that I've seen all season. And, dude, I'm not just saying this as a Mets fan. I think a lot of people in Major League Baseball would say it, and you might be hearing it first here because he's not like a big high-profile player. But I've heard a lot of talk in the league, and I watch this guy on a daily basis. I'd make the argument that possibly the best defensive player in Major League Baseball right now is Luis Guillorme on the Mets. He is unbelievable if you get a chance to watch him. He's unbelievable, Jay. And he makes the whole infield better. He can play short. He plays a lot of second base. And he is insane with him and Lindor up the middle. And then you got Brandon Nimmo, who's played a tremendous center field. So I don't know any fan graph or any stat that would say the Mets haven't been stellar defensively. That's all I'm going to say. And I'm just saying I could see Keith Hernandez basing his comments on what he's watching and what he perceives the Phillies are bringing to the table. And that's not to dispute the fact, you're right, the Phillies have been playing a lot better.
When was the last
win an argument by just bashing the Mets.
When was the last time the Mets had a Gold Glover? Was it Juan Lagares?
Juan Lagares won a Gold Glove. I don't pay too much attention to that stuff.
I'm just saying.
I couldn't tell you. I mean, Lindor has won a Gold Glove a couple of times. He's only been on the Mets 2 years. Guillorme only hasn't because he's really just playing his first full season this year. You know what I'm saying? But I couldn't really answer that, but it's not really kind of the point. I think it's sometimes the sum of the parts, not the individuals.
I just think that Keith Hernandez needs to watch the Phillies because I think he might change his tune a little bit if he
And I tell you
watches
this,
the
Keith would be the first to say that, knowing Keith. Dude, there's a reason he's beloved. There's a reason. And he's one of the reasons is sometimes he says funny things. And he's also a guy that sometimes like seems like he's clueless in a sense, like he's not paying attention.
Well, I like him from Seinfeld. So
yeah, I'm saying he's got that quirky personality where sometimes it's almost like he's on cloud nine during a broadcast. But while he's like that, he's also like such a baseball savant. Like he's a genius of the game. Dude, Keith Hernandez reinvented the position of first base. He really did. He was the guy that invented, the first baseman charging on the bunt play. Before the pitch was even thrown, if he expected a bunt, Keith Hernandez was charging toward home plate. So when the guy bunted, Keith Hernandez was already on top of home plate to pick up that bunt and get the force at second base on sack bunts. Keith Hernandez invented that play. So he's a baseball savant, but he's also a very quirky guy. Anyway, I think it's going to lead into a really exciting series this weekend. And you know what, dude? If it makes the series more exciting because of what Hernandez said, I'm all for it. I'm all for it.
I mean, the only thing that sucks is now Schwarber might miss the series.
Oh, I didn't hear that. How come?
He left today's game.
What happened to him?
They didn't say a sore. I don't know if it was a sore elbow.
Calf injury.
Calf. I'm sorry.
Calf injury.
I don't know why I thought elbow.
I just pulled it up. Yeah, I just pulled it up. Anyway, brother, I just wanted to get into something here. Did you have a chance to check out the Woodstock 99 documentary on Netflix?
No, man. I've been wanting to watch it, and I haven't.
Dude, it really is insane. It really is. It's very well done, and it just shows so much footage. Like, we've all heard the stories of Woodstock 99. Obviously, the real performance you always think about was the Limp Bizkit performance, where I've watched the Limp Bizkit performance on YouTube over the years from Woodstock 99. And dude, I've never seen a crowd that intense as the crowd for Limp Bizkit in Woodstock 99. And Fred, just obviously Limp Bizkit, the type of music that they play gets a crowd going. I mean, it was crazy. I don't know if you remember, like they started breaking down the sound stage, the soundboards, and start ripping wood off and floating on it. Fred Durst even got on some plywood and started floating in the crowd. But dude, the Woodstock 99 documentary, I mean, it just shows stuff and makes you see stuff. It was worse than you thought, dude. You got to check it out. You've got to check it out. Dude, it shows, I saw during the rave, Fatboy Slim had a rave on the Saturday night. Oh, after, what was it, Limp Bizkit, and then somebody else played after them, Bush, I think. And I guess they ended at midnight. And then there was a rave on the second night of Woodstock 99. So Fatboy Slim was the DJ of the rave. And it was like all day with people having sex in the field, doing acid, all this crazy stuff. And then some of the concert goers commandeered a van, and they were driving the van into the crowd. People could have been run over. So then they had to make Fatboy Slim stop playing to try to quell the crowd and get the car out of there. So when security came in and opened the van, they saw a 15-year-old girl with her pants down around her ankles and her shirt pulled up, and a man pulling his pants back up, like he had raped a 15-year-old girl. Crazy stuff that you saw on this. And then obviously, if you remember Woodstock 99, you remember the last night. After all the chaos, dude, there was trash all over. It was chaos. The porta potties had spilled. People couldn't get clean. They couldn't shower. So they started breaking the water pipes. It was 100 degrees. Water was $4 at the start of the festival. They talked about by the end of the festival, because it was such a scarce item and a hard item to come by, the vendors had started charging $12 a bottle for the water. So people were just pissed off. They started breaking the water pipes. So the water was squirting out in the shower areas, and it was coming out brown, like it was mixed with sewage. The health department came and tested the water during the festival. They talk about it in the documentary. And all the water tests came back with fecal matter in the water. So the people were drinking poop, brushing their teeth with poop. And then they were sliding in mud. But the mud was actually poop mud, because the porta-johns had overflowed and the showers had overflowed. Dude, it was insane. And it got me really thinking. The reason that it happened was really because the festival was all about greed. Like, they were charging all this money for the water. Dude, think about this. When people were entering the festival, they were taking away all the items they brought in. Like, if they had any food or water, they made them take it out of their bag and like throw it out. So people were going to this 3-day festival in 100-degree heat, and they weren't allowed to even bring anything to drink into the festival. Isn't that nuts, dude?
I mean,
dude, it's crazy.
It's making me wish that I would have went.
Well, dude, it was nuts. But dude, and then it got me looking back though. Michael Lang, he was one of the producers of Woodstock 99. He also, was the organizer of the first Woodstock in 69. And then again in the 25th anniversary Woodstock in 94. And it kind of got me wanting to make the comparisons because people romanticize Woodstock 69 so much, the original Woodstock. And I actually, I had known stories, but I wanted to like get a little more like actual detail on it. And dude, Woodstock 69 wasn't like this perfect festival that everyone has romanticized it to be. Dude, it had deaths, drug overdoses. The people said the stages were death traps. People were selling acid for $1. I was reading for every 600 guests at the 69 Woodstock, there was one toilet. I read there was 3 deaths at the 69 Woodstock, including one concert goer who was run over by a tractor on the farm. There was more than 700 drug overdoses at the 69 Woodstock. So I'm just saying, it's not like that was like this perfect festival. And I think Woodstock 94 was closer to like what Woodstock 69 was. Because obviously one of the big differences between Woodstock in 69 and Woodstock in 99, I just talked about the similarities. Let's not romanticize Woodstock 69 to be this perfect utopian thing, because it wasn't. Any big festival when you're going to have 400,000 people, there's going to be problems, right? There's going to be drug overdoses. There's possibly going to be a rape. There's possibly going to be fights. The porta-johns are going to overflow. It's just the reality of it. You're going to pack that many people. But another big difference between Woodstock 69 and 99, the farmer who allowed Michael Lang to host Woodstock on his farm, he was a milk farmer. And when he saw people were trying to sell water at the festival, he actually put a big sign up on the highway leading into his farm that said free water. And he demanded all his workers on his farm and his family to take all empty milk bottles and fill them with water for the concert goers. So, I mean, right off the bat, they were taking care of the concert goers a lot more than they did in Woodstock 99. That's one big difference that I think made it where Woodstock 99 went to that next level of insanity. You're packing 400,000 people into a festival. Like I said, you're not letting them bring in food or water. You're trying to sell them $8 bottles of water. The poop is all over the place. The people are going to get crazy, dude. It's like Lord of the Flies. It's almost like it was a giant social experiment, Woodstock 99. It was like, oh, this happened in Woodstock 69. Let's see what we can do in 99 to take it to the next level. Let's deprive them of water. Let's deprive them of facilities. And it was like a social experiment. Another thing I was thinking about too, how Woodstock 94 was a little more similar to the first Woodstock. Jay, I know you'll remember this. When we were in high school, we graduated in 94. Dude, the musical landscape in 1994 was a lot closer to the musical landscape in 1969 than the musical landscape was in 1999. For example, at Woodstock 94, we actually had some of the original Woodstock performers perform again at the 94 festival. Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young. I think Joe Cocker played at both of them. Members of the band, I think Slash played with them at the second Woodstock. So it wasn't like as aggressive. The most aggressive band was like 9 Inch Nails and Metallica at the 94 festival. Green Day, but they were like fun punk rock. Remember the big mud fest at 94 with Green Day, but it wasn't like you took everything from Woodstock 69 and 94, and with each Woodstock, it got more and more corporate, more and more price gouging, right? And then you add new metal. Jay, I think that was the magic ingredient, besides all the things I just said, that took Woodstock 99 into utter chaos. You take 400,000 pissed off kids that you are sweating, dehydrated, have no access to facilities for shower or toilets, can't get water, and you put Korn and Limp Bizkit on the stage. Dude, that's like a Molotov cocktail, and then here's the match. Dude, watch it. It's crazy. It really is. And I'm just saying, let's not romanticize the old shit. None of them were perfect. I do think Michael Lang, the founder of all three Woodstocks, is over-romanticized. I think at the end of the day, he was in it for the money. I don't care what anybody says. It's not like Woodstock 69 was a total free concert. It was $7 for a one-day ticket in 69, $14 for a two-day ticket, and $18 for a three-day ticket. Now, granted, factor inflation, what would that have cost in 99? But the bottom line, it wasn't free. And they were going to charge for drinks. People were, but the farmer said no. I'm just saying, then he was the one that, like, reorganized Woodstock again, and then again in 99. And he was the one that, subcontracted out the toilet facilities and the security to save money and budget cuts so they can make a profit, because they said they didn't make enough profit in 94. So, I mean, this guy, I'm just saying, like, I know, like, my parents' generation, they're going to romanticize Woodstock 69, but let's not, like, make it that it was this perfect thing. It wasn't. And let's not just, like, blame Limp Bizkit only or blame the kids that were at Woodstock 99. I do think there was a generational difference, obviously. But, dude, you watch that documentary and you see what those kids went through. Dude, it was literally a social experiment. I know I just rambled for a little bit, but I just wanted to talk about it. I just really did. I was so taken aback by the documentary.
No, I mean, now I definitely got to check it out, and it's making me wish that I did attend. I know it was nuts, but
it's funny
just
you say
to be able to say I was at a festival like that and experienced something like of that magnitude, because I see these festivals like the festivals like overseas, like, what's the big one in
Download used to be Donington
or Donington,
yeah, things like that. Yeah,
those kind of festivals, and I'm like, wow, I just want to be at one of those one time. Yeah. And I guess Woodstock 99 is probably as close that you'll get to something like that.
Well, I think it was bigger, but dude, it's funny you say that, because here's one of the big takeaways I took from the documentary. The documentary was 3 episodes long, right? And all it did was tell you how terrible everything was, right? All it did is, dude, literally, you see trash everywhere. It looked like Bosnia, bro. I mean, it looked like post-apocalyptic. The trash all over the place, the complete, utter chaos and destruction on the property. That was another thing in Woodstock 99. The first Woodstock was at a farm. Woodstock 99 was at, like, a freaking retired Air Force base. So you had these kids on, like, freaking blacktop with the sun beating down on them. No shade. That's another big difference I should have mentioned. But anyway, so they talk about that. They talk about lack of water. They talk about the lack of facilities. They talk about the poop all over the place, the smell, the sexual assaults, this, that, and all this terrible stuff. And you know what blew my mind at the end of the documentary? Like 3 or 4 of the people that they interviewed that were at the festival, they showed them at the festival, like in archival footage, but then they showed them today talking about it. All of them said how bad this was, how bad that was. But then at the end, you know what they all said to him, man? That it was the best time they ever had, including the girl. It's like, it was the best time I ever had. So I kind of get your point, because I've experienced certain things like that. Maybe not to that level. Like, I don't know. My buddy James, he was at Woodstock 94. You watch the Green Day set on YouTube. You could see his, like, head going by the stage, all the mud getting thrown around. I was working at Wawa. I was just out of high school. I was 18. And James and John, my buddy John, were like, "Oh, we're going to Woodstock. You want to go?" And I was like, "No, I got work." What kind of a schmuck am I for my $5.75 job at Wawa that I missed Woodstock? But I did. But anyway, I've been to other festivals. I mean, some of the Ozfests I went to were insane. And, I get it. Like, sometimes as rough as things are, I've been squished in heat in crazy pits thinking I wasn't going to get out. I've had it all. But at the end of the day, they were the greatest times of my life. I do get that feeling. It's like, it's an experience that you can never replicate, That's, to me, what it is. I mean, as bad as it was, the memory is, like, indelible.
And I guess that's where I'm at with it. After hearing you describe it, and obviously wanting to see the documentary now because of that.
We're sick people, Jack.
We're not sick. We love to have fun.
Yeah, that's it, man.
We're 45-year-olds that want to go
46,
back to being 20.
46.
Oh, yeah. Jeez.
We forget our age. That's how old we are. Anyway, brother, what do you think? We get to the picks of the week.
Picks of the week.
Let's do it. So I guess you want me to go first, as is customary.
As always, brother.
All right, so I got a really cool pick of the week this week, Jay. I actually just found out about it this morning, and I didn't know it was coming out, but there's an archival record label called Numero Group, and they release like archival stuff, box sets. Like I think they did a Blondie one. They've done multiple ones, like just all rare archival stuff that they repackage it, reorganize it, and they release it. So their upcoming release is actually called Bound for Hell on the Sunset Strip. And what it is it's a collection of tracks documenting the early days of the Los Angeles glam metal scene. And you know me, bro, that's my scene. That is my scene. And what's really cool about it is, we all hear about the Poisons and the Motley Crues, and maybe to a lesser extent like Lillian Axe, but this goes all into everything. It's got some familiar names like Armored Saint, Black and Blue, Lizzie Borden. But dude, it's also got bands like Max Havoc, who had Carlos Cavazo in it, later of Quiet Riot fame, Sin, Lisa Baker, Jaded Lady, Leather Angel, Hellion Bitch. And Odin is in it, is on the box set. They actually, any fans of, The Decline of Western Civilization Part 2 will recognize Odin. They were in that. But I've heard a couple of the tracks from it. Max Havoc's Bound for Hell is actually the title track of the box set. You could check that out. But dude, it's going to be insane. They've released like 3 or 4 tracks. Again, it's called Bound for Hell on the Sunset Strip. It's being released by the Numero Group, and it's going to come out in October. I don't have an exact date here, but it is going to come out in October. The collection includes a 144-page book featuring rare photos and flyers, and it also includes an essay by Catherine Turman, who is the co-author of one of my favorite books, Louder Than Hell, The Definitive Oral History of Heavy Metal, who she co-wrote with our good friend of the show, John Wiederhorn. So that's my pick of the week. Definitely check it out. It's coming out in October. It's called Bound for Hell on the Sunset Strip. You could check out a couple of the tracks already. I know Louder just put an article out about it. Some of the tracks are on there. But if you go to YouTube, just type it in. Bound for Hell on the Sunset Strip. You could check out some of the music that's already been released. It's on YouTube. That's my pick of the week, brother. What do you got?
Dude, I love glam metal, so I'll definitely be checking that out. Well, my pick of the week actually goes back to the baseball side of things. And let me tell you, bro, I know I texted you a couple times this week about it. Facing Nolan, it's definitely, it might not be the best baseball documentary I've ever watched. I've watched quite a few good ones, including the one that was recently put together about the Mets. But this documentary is fire, bro. Fire. I love Nolan Ryan, always have. I mean, I know that a lot of people don't put Nolan Ryan in the upper echelon of pitchers of all-time greats. Obviously, those people that say that, it's the ERA,
Well, you know what? I think that's
the fact that he pitched such a long career, and
amazing.
They use that as a kind of a reason against him being in that class. But to me, when you watch this documentary, dude, it really does a great job of capturing just how larger than life Nolan Ryan really was, especially during his playing days. Obviously today, looking back, I think we all tend to sometimes forget how great Nolan Ryan was. 7 no-hitters, 5,700 strikeouts in his career.
Insane.
The next closest is Randy Johnson, which is almost 1,000 less. I mean,
and Randy Johnson did it in an era where hitters struck out more. Let's not forget.
Exactly. And what I liked about the documentary, it kind of takes you back to his beginning, to his childhood in Texas. He was born in Refugio. So it basically, shows him as a younger kid. And then when he's getting to baseball, and there was a scout from the New York Mets that fell in love with him. So he told the Mets, he's like, don't let anybody know about this prospect. We're going to draft him. And the Mets obviously drafted him. But before that, he idolized Sandy Koufax. That was his idol. And if you watch and Sandy Koufax, obviously he was a lefty, but Nolan Ryan wanted to be like the right-handed Sandy Koufax. And that's basically what he became. Power pitcher, obviously he's the protege of that term that we use today, power pitcher. it's crazy because it showed like his early days with the Mets and that he won a World Series, but it's funny because so many people say he was like the 5th best pitcher on that team. And that's just insane when you hear that Nolan Ryan was the 5th best pitcher on the staff. But Tom Seaver taught him a lot. He looked up to Tom Seaver, learned a lot from him. And obviously he's traded to the Angels. And then that's when his career kind of took off. And it documents, obviously, he had 7 no-hitters, but he had like 5 of them within like a 3-year period. It was like crazy. Like it was no-hitter on steroids. He was the only one throwing them.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm telling you, man, I got goosebumps the whole entire documentary. I loved it. That's my pick of the week. I hope you check it out. I know you will because you're
Facing Nolan, right? It's in theaters and you can stream it at home.
Correct.
Yep. Dude, I got to come in on this. You brought up the example of how Nolan Ryan idolized Sandy Koufax. Dude, think about it. A lot of people call Sandy Koufax the greatest pitcher of all time. But think about his career. Sandy Koufax's career was like lightning in a bottle. You had that little, 5, 6, 7 year period where he was just insane. But his entire career was like 10 years. And then he had the arm problems and he had to retire. So it's definitely different. Nolan Ryan didn't have that dominant stretch that Koufax had. But when you could consider the longevity of Nolan Ryan, you said people use it against him. I kind of agree in the past they did. And this is going to be where we kind of like look at the new school a little bit. We always talk about how we're old school, but I agree with that. In the past, I even was like not as hyped on Nolan Ryan as I should have been when I was a kid. I remember I used to say, "Oh, he's barely a 500 pitcher. He's like Fred McGriff. I always called him a compiler, a compiler because he compiled stats over such a long period of time. But you can't look at it that way. It's amazing that he was able to pitch as long as he did and still throw 95 miles, 96 miles per hour when he was 40-something. You can't take that away. And then you got to factor another thing. When I was young and dumb, I didn't acknowledge enough. But think of all the bad teams Nolan Ryan pitched on, how much better his record would have been. You know what I'm saying?
And I don't want to interject on you, but
you can.
But you kind of said that he didn't really have any of the dominance. He was more of a compiler, so to speak.
No. That's what I thought, but it wasn't true.
Okay, so how about this dominance? 329 Ks one year, 383 the next, 367 the next. The only reason he took a dip, he got hurt, 186. Then back to 327, 341, and 260. There's only, I believe, on my 3 pitchers that have had 300 strikeouts over 3 times, and Nolan Ryan done it 6 times.
Yeah, and here's the kicker. Like, I go back to this. That was before guys struck out. Like, back then, you might have one guy in your team that struck out 100 times, and he was your cleanup hitter, your power hitter. And that's if you even had a 100 strikeout guy. It wasn't like today where the average hitter strikes out like 120, 130 times. I mean, that's what an average hitter strikes out today, Jay, over a 550, 600 at-bat season. So it's a different era. The fact he struck that many guys out is amazing.
It's a testament to how good of shape
he was.
Dude, his arm. Imagine every other pitcher that throws hard like that. And by the way, he was clocked at 101 miles an hour, but they said in today's time, in the real time, like that was actually 8 miles too slow. So realistically, his fastball was 108 miles an hour, which
because of the way that today's guns are.
Anybody throwing 108 miles an hour today is getting Tommy John after a year. Dude, he had 301 strikeouts at 42 years old with the Rangers.
Crazy.
To me just shows you how good a shape he was in. And like you see him now, and obviously he's got a gut, and he's old. He's old.
He's an old man.
But it just shows you like he's actually a really good dude, though. Like they interview him obviously in the documentary, and they said his wife had a lot to do with his not giving up. When he was with the Mets, he literally wanted to quit baseball.
Because he had a lot of problems with blisters.
Not just that. It was the blisters, but it was also he wasn't built to play in New York. And he says that in the documentary that it was too much of a limelight for him. He's a Texas guy. He has a ranch and everything. And his wife was institutional in making sure that he did not, quit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that
Dude, he's amazing. Like I told you, like it was me just being young and ignorant and not really looking deeper
no, me
into it.
too.
And as
Me
you grow older, you
too.
really appreciate how great Nolan Ryan was. And I've said this now. I'm going on 10 years. He's on there. He's in the top 10 of all time, or higher. I mean, it's just to me the longevity is something that at one point we might have used against him, but to me it's like the ultimate tribute to him. Especially when we watch these guys today that can't pitch 6 innings. You know what I'm saying? It's insane.
Absolutely.
It's insane that he was able to do what he did for so long and still throw as hard as he did.
I mean,
You know?
I don't think we'll ever see anybody approach 5,000 Ks ever in a history in today's game. I don't think. I don't think we'll
Not
ever
because
see.
guys don't strike out a ton, because they do. It's just nobody's going to pitch long enough.
But I don't think we'll ever see anybody approach even 300 Ks a year for that many times. Like we've seen Garrett Cole do it once. We've seen Scherzer do it once.
But even that is so skewed because when we're seeing guys like Garrett Cole do it, they're only pitching 200 innings. So that's as much of a testament to how nasty Garrett Cole is as much as it's a testament to how much hitters strike out. Because think about it. What pitcher doesn't strike out 1 batter per inning in today's game? Everybody does. If you're not striking out 1 batter per inning in today's game, you're not going to be in the big leagues for the most part. There's a few exceptions, but for the most part. So like the power pitchers today are striking out 10, 12, 13, 14 batters per 9 innings, and your relief pitchers like an Edwin Diaz is striking out 18 guys per 9. So it's apples and oranges. I can't imagine how many strikeouts Nolan Ryan would have in today's game.
Now
you know what I'm saying? Like Nolan Ryan was throwing 300 innings and striking out 360 guys. And that's not to take away the 360 strikeouts and say, oh, Garrett Cole did it in only 200 innings. No, guys didn't strike out then. And it's crazy that he threw that many innings year after year after year and pitched in 4 decades. The 60s, 70s, 80s.
That's the other thing. He didn't want to be taken out. Like he would tell the manager no. Like they'd come out to do a pitching change and he would tell them no, I'm staying in.
Yeah, well, that was the way the game was then. Unfortunately, that's gone. The game's it's not the same anymore. Everything's specialized, and even managers are puppets today. You know, that's the one thing we're going to miss for the rest of our lives. I don't see it ever getting remotely back to that, you know?
They did show the bloody shirt.
Oh, with the nosebleed?
How he became larger than life when he got hit
Yeah.
by the comebacker, but it grazed his.
That was when he was on the Rangers.
It split his lip all the way down, and he could put his tongue through his lip.
Wasn't that when he was a Ranger?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
And then
it still drives me nuts that he's in the Hall of Fame with a Ranger.
It showed the fight with Robin Ventura. Remember, he hit Ventura.
Yeah, he had him in the headlock.
They had the vendetta. and then they said the guy that was his most hated rival at the plate was Bo Jackson. Well, Bo Jackson was on the White Sox at this time, and Bo Jackson's the guy that picked him up out of the pile. Like Nolan Ryan said, he was like scared. Like he talks about this play, like where, he's on the bottom of the pile, and he says all of a sudden he feels this guy like just lift him up, and he looks up, and it was
Bo Jackson.
Bo Jackson.
Nice. Anyway, that's an awesome pick of the week, brother.
Yeah.
Anyway, everybody out there, we hope you really enjoyed the show this week. If you have anything you want to add, you want to email us, hit us up. All our socials at Sports and Metal, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram. Check us out. Also, check out our website. What's that, Jay? Your mother's ass? Yeah. Check out our website, www.sportsandmetal.com. And don't forget to check out our sponsor, La Terrain Watches. Go to their website, www.la-touraine.com. Use our promo code SNM. That's the letters SNM as in Sports and Metal, and you're going to save 10% off your purchase. As always, guys, it's been a great show. I enjoyed it. I know Jay enjoyed it. Until next time, rock on.
Peace out.
And that's our show. Tune in next time for more Sports and Metal with Jason Voorhees and Aaron Savage. Woo, yeah! Got something to say? Hit us up at sportsandmetal0423 at yahoo.com or on Twitter at sportsandmetal.